On a quiet night in suburban Boston, snow began to fall. Pamela's mansion in the upscale neighborhood of Chestnut Hill was beautifully adorned with Christmas decorations. The large fir tree's lights twinkled gently at the entrance, while jazz melodies drifted from inside. Brenda Campbell came to fetch a special wine for her husband James at her sister Pamela's annual Christmas party. "It should be in the kitchen," her mother Carol had said. Following her mother's words, Brenda headed toward the kitchen, which was a bit removed from the living room. As she walked carefully to avoid the sound of her heels, she heard faint laughter coming from the kitchen. "James, someone might come." Pamela's sweet voice. Brenda's feet stopped. "It's fine, everyone's caught up in the party." Her husband James's voice. Brenda's hands began to tremble. The door before her was half open. Through the gap, she could see her husband and sister, oblivious to his wife's existence. James, dressed in an expensive suit, had his arms around Pamela's waist as she wore a designer dress, sharing a deep kiss. A glass fell to the floor. Along with the sound of breaking glass, Brenda's world shattered into pieces. The two hastily separated. But it was too late. Everything had been revealed. "We're finished, James." Brenda's voice rang out, surprisingly calm. "No. This is real love." Pamela began making desperate excuses. Her voice carried more panic than guilt. "Be quiet." With just those words, Brenda left the scene. In the living room, the party was still going on. No one had noticed. No one had witnessed the moment a family fell apart. In January, on a day when record-breaking cold hit Boston, Brenda stood at her parents' front door. 5 cardboard boxes. This was all that remained of her life. "This is temporary, right?" Her mother Carol's voice was tinged with anxiety. Her father Robert never looked up from his newspaper. The guest room was practically a storage space. Dusty furniture, cold air, a creaky bed. In this space that no longer felt like home, Brenda quietly began unpacking her belongings. At the kitchen counter, Brenda sat alone, sipping Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Pamela used to value family so much. Her mother's sigh echoed in the living room. "A woman can't find happiness just focused on her career." Her father's words added to the wound. Brenda endured in silence. But the growing discomfort was reaching its limit. Pamela's frequent visits. Her parents' overflowing love. And the growing anxiety. How long could she endure in this house? In the heated room, Brenda sat alone, freezing. On a calm Saturday morning in March, the street trees in Chestnut Hill were finally showing signs of spring. In front of Whole Foods Market on Main Street, local farmers had set up small markets since early morning. A peaceful weekend atmosphere flowed through the upscale residential area. Brenda sat in her parents' living room, focused on work documents. An appraisal case for a large commercial facility by Cushman and Wakefield. A complex development planned for Newberry Street, with an investment exceeding $80 million. Not a single mistake could be allowed in this crucial work. Wrapped in a simple navy cashmere sweater, her glossy dark brown hair pulled back to her shoulders. She tried not to notice how worn out her reflection looked in the MacBook screen. Fully prepared for weekend work. For the past few weeks, she had been trying to escape reality by immersing herself in work. In the sunlit room, she concentrated intensely, reviewing materials repeatedly for next week's presentation. If this project succeeded, promotion to senior appraiser would be within reach. Her annual salary could jump from $80,000 to $120,000. She was desperately trying to look forward. Her parents had already finished breakfast and were absorbed in their daily routines. Her father was reading the Wall Street Journal as usual, occasionally checking stock prices. Her mother was baking her weekend signature apple pie in the kitchen. The sweet aroma stirred memories of happier times. This peaceful silence was broken by a sudden visitor. "Good morning, everyone." With a high-pitched voice, Pamela appeared. In her hand was the latest Gucci tote bag. Dressed head to toe in designer brands, she looked like she had stepped out of a fashion magazine. Emma and Michael bounced in energetically behind her. "Pamela. My goodness, what brings you here so early?" Mother's voice rose with genuine delight. She removed her apron while welcoming her daughter and grandchildren. "Grandma." As the children rushed over, even Father unusually looked up from his newspaper. "Oh, how adorable. You look well. Here, have some candy." Their parents' loving words echoed in the living room. Robert pulled out the candy he always kept ready in his jacket pocket. Brenda kept her eyes on her documents, trying not to watch the scene. Pamela's apparent happiness, the children's innocent smiles, her parents' overflowing love, everything constricted her chest. Brenda, perfect timing. At Pamela's voice, she had no choice but to look up. Her sister's perfect makeup and designer dress. It was as if she wore the air of a victor. Her hair looked freshly styled at a salon. There was no trace left of her former high school teacher appearance. "James and I got a reservation at a wonderful restaurant. Les Belier," Pamela announced triumphantly. The name of Boston's most exclusive French restaurant stung like a needle. It was where Brenda and James had celebrated their engagement. "And?" Brenda replied coldly, desperately suppressing the slight tremor in her voice. "Watch the children for me, won't you? After all, Emma and Michael love you so much." At this shocking request, the room's atmosphere froze for a moment. Emma looked anxiously at Brenda, while Michael clung to his mother's legs. "Of course you should. We're family." Pamela's words were immediately echoed by their mother. "That's right. It's natural to help family. I'll help too. Work documents can wait. Take a break on weekends." Their father's voice joined in. He had completely folded his newspaper, his tone unusually stern. Brenda's hands began to shake. The documents before her trembled. Her expensive Mont Blanc fountain pen left an ink stain on the paper. "Since you're single and have free time, this much is expected, right? I have a family to care for. Unlike you. That one statement changed everything. The humiliation she had endured. Her parents' discriminatory attitude. Her sister's arrogance. And above all, the pain of betrayal. Memories with her husband, 6 years spent together, and the lost future. Everything welled up at once. Brenda slowly stood up. With trembling hands, she began gathering her documents. Closing her MacBook, packing it into her bag. Each movement was like a ritual cementing her resolve. We are no longer family. A quiet but determined voice. There was no hesitation left in it. What are you saying? Have you lost your mind? Pamela raised her voice. Her perfect makeup twisted with anger. Mother's hands trembled as she clutched her apron. Surely you're not planning to leave? Think this through. Father's intimidating voice. However, even his voice carried a slight tremor. The children, unable to understand the situation, anxiously watched the adults. Emma looked on the verge of tears, while Michael hid behind his mother. But Brenda's feet were already moving. The sound of her expensive heels echoed like a quiet resolution. Emma, Michael. I'm leaving this place. But I won't forget you. With one last look at the children's confused expressions, Brenda left the room. No one followed. In the hallway leading to the entrance, she caught sight of a photograph. Young Pamela and Brenda. A picture of the sisters smiling together. Brenda stopped and stared at it intently. Everything had become part of the past. That afternoon, Brenda had finished signing the contract for an apartment in Boston's Back Bay district. A furnished one-bedroom. The rent at $2,800 per month wasn't cheap, but it was worth it for the start of a new life. Working in real estate, she had been able to find a good property quickly. The cityscape visible from the high-rise window gleamed in the spring sunlight. The old tree-lined Beacon Street, the gentle flow of the Charles River, the distant Boston Common. The new view heralded the beginning of a new life. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of liberation. There was even a faint hint of hope mixed in. Goodbye. She wasn't sure who the words were meant for. Perhaps they were for her family, or perhaps for her past self. In the room where twilight streamed in, Brenda took a deep breath. Tomorrow, a new life would begin. Brenda's new life started more smoothly than expected. The high-rise one-bedroom apartment, with its modern gray interior, was perfect for concentrating on work. The large windows offered views of the Charles River, and each morning's sunrise brought new hope. Shopping at Whole Foods, buying coffee at the neighborhood Dunkin' Donuts, sometimes walking along the Charles River. New daily routines gradually began healing her heart. Ms. Campbell, this report is excellent. John Harrison, her boss at Cushman & Wakefield's Boston office, announced with satisfaction. The Newberry Street project had earned high praise from clients for her meticulous analysis and accurate value assessment. Thank you. Though her response was matter-of-fact, internally it became a great source of confidence. Work was now her pride and very identity. That evening, her newly purchased iPhone vibrated. Though she had changed her number, she had kept Instagram notifications. There was a post from Pamela. Pamela in an elegant wedding dress and James in a tuxedo. They were smiling broadly in a luxury hotel ballroom. The post already had hundreds of likes. Brenda's hands trembled. Not with anger, but with pity. She knew well how much pretense lay behind those perfect smiles on social media. Ms. Campbell, any weekend plans? At the office, Sarah, a young analyst, called out to her. There's a drinking party at a new restaurant in Seaport. Would you like to join? There was no reason to refuse. Perhaps it was time to make new friends. Yes, I'd love to. On Friday night, the new restaurant in Seaport was bustling with young professionals. Sarah's friends were in their 30s, successful in finance and IT. Everyone was serious about their careers while trying to enjoy life. Brenda, your analytical skills are really amazing. I want to assign you to the next project too. With her colleagues' words, confidence gradually returned. In this city, she wasn't alone. However, the peace didn't last long. At the end of April, another post from Pamela shook her heart. Our perfect honeymoon in Maldives. #luxury life, #happy wife. A series of photos from a luxury resort in the Maldives. Sipping champagne by an infinity pool. Lavish dinners. And at the end of the post, a pointed comment. Some people only have their work, but I have a perfect family. #blessed. #grateful. An obvious jab. Her parents' likes were in the comments section too. Brenda let out a deep sigh as she put down her smartphone. Outside the window, spring rain was falling quietly. However, her heart no longer swayed as easily as it used to. This is fine. Her whispered words echoed in the quiet room. From the high floor, she could see the city shrouded in rain. Somewhere, new life was beginning. She too was beginning to walk a new path. In May, good news arrived at the office. Congratulations on your promotion to senior appraiser. Martha from HR announced with a broad smile. Annual salary up to $120,000. Significantly increased bonus. And a private office was assigned. That evening, Brenda pressed the block button for the first time. Pamela's social media accounts disappeared from the screen. Then her parents' accounts too. Goodbye. This time, she knew clearly. The words were meant for her past self. A farewell to the weak self who had suffered trying to meet family expectations. On the wall of her new private office, she hung a photograph of the Charles River. The river's surface gleaming in the morning sun. Light announcing the start of a new day. It was also a symbol of her determination. As June arrived, Boston began showing signs of early summer. In the public garden, swan boats glided gracefully across the water, crowded with tourists. On weekends, Brenda went out for brunch with her new friends. At a new cafe in Seaport, mimosa in hand, they shared stories about their lives. I got divorced 2 years ago too. Jennifer, Sarah's friend, confided. "But I'm 100 times happier now." Smiling, Brenda raised her glass. Past pain had transformed into strength. In early July, a new project began at the office. Evaluating a new building for a biotechnology company in Cambridge. An $80 million large-scale project. "Would you take the lead on this project?" At John Harrison's words of trust, Brenda nodded without hesitation. "I'll make it successful." She now had that much confidence. Leading the team, compiling complex analyses, negotiating with clients. The timid self of the past was nowhere to be found. In late July, while walking along the Charles River admiring the night view, her phone suddenly rang. A message from an unknown number. Opening it, she found it was from her mother. "Brenda, how are you? I wish you'd contact us sometimes." She didn't reply. It wasn't time yet. Though the wounds were healing, they needed a bit more time to fully heal. She no longer needed to meet anyone else's expectations. Her life was her own. In the air-conditioned office, Brenda was absorbed in a new project. Then her smartphone vibrated. The screen displayed a message from her old friend Emily in Cambridge. "Brenda, about your ex-husband, have you heard the rumors?" Her chest tightened slightly. But there was no longer the pain of old. What happened? Seconds after her reply, the phone rang. Emily's voice was mixed with excitement and sympathy. James apparently had an affair with his secretary. A 25-year-old new hire. Pamela caught them at the office. Emily's story was like something out of a drama. Pamela had become suspicious after checking her husband's phone and made a surprise visit to the office. There she witnessed her husband in a secret meeting with the young secretary. Reservation records at expensive restaurants, receipts for costly gifts, and countless decisive messages. Pamela completely lost it. They say she screamed in the office and tried to attack the secretary. Ironic fate. Now she was experiencing the same betrayal that Brenda had once endured. That evening, messages arrived one after another from her parents. "Brenda, we need to talk about Pamela. Won't you help her?" She didn't reply. Looking out the window, she let out a deep sigh. The surface of the Charles River was dyed red in the sunset. As August began, the situation worsened. New information arrived from Emily. Looks like James's investments failed badly. He even lost their parents' retirement savings. Brenda stood up from her chair. From her high-rise office, she could see the Boston skyline. Her parents had trusted Pamela and James with their retirement savings for investment. The estimated amount was $500,000. "There's more." Emily's voice continued. "They're behind on the house payments too." James was the guarantor. More than anger, sadness welled up. Her parents' retirement dreams were being shattered by her sister's arrogance and her husband's desires. Then a decisive event occurred. James's photo appeared in the Boston Globe's digital edition. He had apparently attempted to flee overseas with company funds and his secretary. The FBI had begun an investigation. That evening, an urgent call came from Emily. Pamela's been evicted. Apparently, they were behind on rent for James's luxury apartment too. She's out on the street with the children. At night, another message arrived from her parents. This time from her father. I'm sorry. You were right. Would you let us talk again? Gazing at the Charles River's night view, Brenda pondered deeply. She no longer felt any desire for revenge. She just felt this was life's ironic twist of fate. One day, there was an unexpected visitor at the Cushman and Wakefield office. Entering the reception room, there sat Pamela. Gone were the luxury brands, replaced by an inexpensive dress. Her makeup was light, with dark circles under her eyes. Brenda. Her voice trembled. Help me, please. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Not a trace remained of her former arrogance. At that moment, her parents also entered the reception room. Her mother had clearly lost weight, and her father seemed to have aged suddenly. You were right. Her mother's voice trembled. We were wrong. Her father bowed deeply. I'm sorry, truly sorry. Outside the window, autumn winds rustled through the street trees. Falling leaves danced, announcing the arrival of a new season. Brenda slowly took a seat. She looked at Pamela. Her once admired sister. Now experiencing life's irony. Photos of Emma and Michael were visible on Pamela's smartphone screen. Innocent smiles. The children were blameless. She let out a deep sigh. Then slowly opened her mouth. Tell me everything. At these words, Pamela broke down, crying even harder. Her parents remained silent, heads bowed. The air in the reception room grew heavy. Outside, autumn sunlight streamed through the windows, as if announcing the beginning of a new season. Across the Charles River, MIT's dome gleamed in the sunset. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Brenda exhaled deeply once more. There was no longer anger or hatred in the new relationship about to begin with her family. Only quiet determination remained. Let's begin, shall we? Those words carried hope for the future. Summer 2025. Ms. Campbell, congratulations. At Cushman and Wakefield's Boston office, John Harrison announced with a broad smile. Your promotion to director has been officially confirmed. Outside the window, the surface of the Charles River sparkled in the summer sunlight. A future she couldn't have imagined a year ago when she started living alone in this city was now unfolding. Her new home was a luxury condominium in Back Bay. A spacious two-bedroom layout with a terrace overlooking the Boston skyline. Though the rent was high, the comfort that came with her promotion allowed her this new lifestyle. And then there were the monthly family dinners. And Brenda. Emma and Michael came running. Pamela and the children now lived in an affordable apartment in Cambridge. Pamela had started working as a clerk at a local supermarket. Her former addiction to luxury brands had faded, and she was living a modest but fulfilling life. "Emma, how's school?" The teacher praised me. Her innocent smile warmed Brenda's heart. The children were growing up well, unaffected by the adults' complex emotions. Her parents had let go of their large Chestnut Hill house and moved to a more affordable apartment in Brookline. Though they had lost their retirement savings, they seemed to have found new values in their simpler life. "Brenda, I made dinner today," Mother Carol announced, somewhat proudly. Gone were the expensive restaurant dinners, replaced by more time spent sharing home-cooked meals and conversation. "It looks delicious." The words came naturally, from the heart. At twilight, while sipping wine on the terrace, Pamela quietly began to speak. About James. Word had arrived that he had been found in Bangkok, Thailand. Abandoned by his secretary-turned-lover, he was living in a cheap apartment in poverty. The FBI investigation was progressing, and he was expected to be arrested and extradited eventually. "He's no longer relevant to my life." Pamela's voice carried resignation along with a new strength. Her obsession with social media had vanished, and now she cherished her time with her children. "Brenda, It's all right now, Pamela." The sisters silently gazed at Boston's night view. Street lights began illuminating one by one. Father Robert had started working as an advisor for a small investment group. Though the salary wasn't high, he seemed to find fulfillment in work that utilized his experience. "I finally understand what's most important." Everyone nodded quietly at their father's words. Brenda's office was piled with new projects. Next week, a major project in New York would begin. Work remained her pride and identity. But that wasn't all. A message arrived from her new friend Martin Gray. He was an associate professor at Harvard Business School. They had met at a charity event last month and enjoyed intellectual conversations together. As she sent her reply, a small smile crossed her face. Near midnight, after her family had left the condominium, Brenda sat alone looking through an album. Photos of herself with Pamela as children. Memories from student days. Wedding photos. And new photos with her family. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns. But there's always meaning in the path taken. Stepping onto the terrace, a summer night breeze caressed her cheek. Boston's night view sparkled like scattered jewels. In the distance, fireworks could be heard. Probably from the summer festival at Boston Harbor. A new season was about to begin. Tomorrow would start another new day. Days filled with project deadlines, attending meetings, and leading teams. But now she knew that wasn't all there was to life. Maybe this is what happiness is. Her whispered words dissolved into the night breeze. Across the Charles River, the full moon began to rise. Past pain now existed in her heart as deep understanding. The form of family sometimes breaks down and is rebuilt anew. What's important is the compassion and forgiveness learned in the process. Brenda let out a deep sigh. She no longer needed to meet anyone else's expectations. Her life had truly become her own. and a new tomorrow was about to begin. On the terrace table lay a book sent by Martin, The Art of Happiness. Next to it was a family drawing by Emma. In those awkward lines depicting smiling faces, genuine love was clearly conveyed. The night breeze caressed her cheek again. Stars twinkled quietly. A new story was beginning here.